Hi, and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today is Monday, it is December 11th, the year is 2023, and this is a special YouTube premiere. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to use your handmade card supplies to make an amazing holiday gift on a budget. In addition to the one I'm going to demonstrate with you tonight, I have an alternative for you as well, so I hope that you'll stick around. I want to make sure you know all about tonight's free project sheet. You're going to find that down in the video description below. When tonight's premiere is all over, you're going to want to snag that. That's going to include pictures, cutting dimensions, and the supplies for all the projects I'm going to share with you this evening. And I'd love to interact with you. So do me a favor and log into your YouTube account right now, which uses your Gmail address. Gina, Holly, and I are with you right now in the live chat. We love to get to know you and provide links for you. And I want to make sure you see her name in blue off to the side. Gina is my daughter. She's also an avid stamper and our sales and marketing director, and more than capable of answering your questions along with me. All right, we're ready. Let's get started. We're going to begin with a little bit of die cutting, and I use the Joy of Noel dies. It has easily become one of my favorites this holiday season. Not only does it have a coordinating stamp set that I love, the needles and the Noel are quite versatile. The great thing about these letters is once they are die cut, they actually die cut individually, and I've got them here for you that I did ahead of time, just to save a little bit of time in today's video. We're going to start by mounting these on a square. And I'm going to tell you right now that all the squares in my project are the exact same size, 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. I do have an alternate sample for you that shows you some layering as well. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet here. I absolutely love this when I'm working because liquid glue, hot glue, and adhesive will not stick to it. Because of the size of the letters and the size of the square, I'm going to use liquid glue for this, and I find it gives me a little bit of shimmy room. So I'm going to go ahead and lay my letters out first, and I am going to use them in that block formation specifically because of the size of the area I'm going to attach them to. Now, the best tip I can give to you about this is start with your first letter to provide the mapping for the other. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this upside down, and we are going to use this amazing glue press by My Sweet Petunia. Now, if you've been here for a couple weeks with me, you've seen me use it before, and I've absolutely raved about it. It has an acrylic lid that closes the glue press when you're done. There's a needle tip down inside to ensure that it doesn't get clogged when it's not in use. And then it keeps the glue primarily down at the bottom when it's not being used. One of the reasons I absolutely love it is you can see that there's a red stopper at the bottom. And when the glue is touching it, it literally creates a seal so that it will not clog between uses. And I love that it just stations itself down so it's upside down and always ready to use. So here on my silicone craft sheet, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit of glue. Now, for those of you that have arthritic hands like me, you're going to love this because I barely have to press to get the glue out. I mean, you can see how little bit I have to trigger it. I am reaching for my reversible tweezers, and these are all part of the additions kit for the embossing kit. And I love this because this way is going to keep your hands nice and clean. And then what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to leave a small margin here at the top for the letter. And like I said, that's going to create a mapping for the other letters. The other thing I love about this glue press, like I told you, is I can just press it and I can actually hold it with these reversible tweezers just to make my life a whole lot easier. Now this time what I'm looking for is I'm looking to try to get the top of the O aligned with the top of the N. And then once you're happy with it, you can press it in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish up these letters. Now that I have all the letters attached, we're going to go ahead and set this aside and we're going to work on another block. Now the designer series papers for all my blocks are pretty much coming from the same package. It's called A Walk in the Forest. And if you love give back opportunities, this is one for you. Stampin' Up! Is donating $3 from the package of this designer series paper to different programs that are supporting children for the holiday season. This time I've got a strip of pretty peacock cardstock. Now I chose the colors for this because it's reminiscent with the designer series paper. And this is 3/4 of an inch wide. And for this, we're going to use the Banner's Pick a Punch. And I have come to really enjoy this because it's literally 6 punches in one. Now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to show you how I wrote on the back the different sizes, which makes it really easy for me to use. So you can do a 1/2 inch wide, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch. And that's going to help delineate here the different tracks in the different style punches. So there's 2 different styles here. There's the regular banner, and there's this one with a pointed tip. So that gives you lots of different options and 3 different sizes each. I always recommend that you start with a longer strip of cardstock than you're going to need. You're going to want to lay it flat on your work surface. Because I know I'm doing 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to stay within the 3/4 of an inch track, which is that very first one at the bottom. Make sure that your cardstock is always at the back. If you are unsure, you should flip it over and you should look. It should be centered inside this area. Once you're happy with it, lay it back down your work surface and just give it a press, and you're going to have a perfect banner every single time. Now for this project, I am going to cut this down a lot smaller, obviously, because of the size of the square that we're working with. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer. It includes both a scoring blade and a cutting blade, and they stay on the clear track at the same time, which I absolutely love. We need to trim this down to 1 1/4 of an inch. So you can actually trim on this side, or this is what I love about this trimmer. There are smaller cutting dimensions here, which allows me to have more paper to hold. So I'm going to hold it this way, and I'm aligning the tip here to 1 1/4 of an inch, and we're just going to cut that a lot smaller. I'm coming back here to the actual square that we're working on, and I know we can use adhesive on this, but we've got that glue out. So let's just go ahead and lay a little bit on there, and I'm just dragging that tip to make it easier for me. I'm going to place that here near the very top. So I'm aligning the top edge to the paper. Now, the one reason I love this project is you can just pull out whatever you've got. You can decorate the squares however you choose. We are looking to create an amazing gift on a budget today. Now here I decided I needed to do a little bit of stamping. So I've got some garden green cardstock here, and I'm going to bring in my garden green ink. You'll recall we just talked about these dies, and here is the coordinating stamp set, Joy of Noel. Now you can purchase them as a bundle and save 10%. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink up that holly, and I'm going to stamp it once, and I'm going to stamp it twice. There's a coordinating die for this, and if you're like me, you get this lined up and it never stays in place when you go to put it in your die cutting machine. So if this is new to you, I want to be able to share it with you. It's a fantastic tip. It's the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. It comes on a roll. I've had this one for several years. You can even rip it smaller if necessary, but once you have it lined up exactly where you want it, you're going to tack that tape down over the die onto the cardstock, which is going to ensure it doesn't move when you put it through the die cutting machine. Now, I did do that ahead of time, which I'll show you, but I want you to save that tape because once you've die cut it, you can place it here or on your machine, and you can reuse it up to about 6 times. Here are those 2 hollies that we just die cut, and we're going to come back to this square. I'm going to use those reversible tweezers once again from that embossing additions kit, which I love. And you can see how little I can put on here. Let's go ahead and let's put one in this direction. I'm going to leave some room at the top because we're going to do something really fun with this at the end. And then let's take another one. And I love that I can maneuver these down so I have more area for my glue or my adhesive. And I'm going to take the other one and we're going to turn this to make it easy for our hands. And we're going to attach that here. The multi-purpose glue that I put inside this press dries very, very quickly, and it's extremely strong. I'm going to push that off to the side, and we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Now I decided I needed to do a little bit of die cutting. I used the basic white scrap cardstock, and I brought in the chic dies. Now this might be a die set you've overlooked, and I want to point it out to you because it can be used all by itself amazingly. You've got a really fun texture background here, but you've got 3D leaves and snowflakes and flowers and seashells that can be used all year round, so it comprises quite a bit. And in this case, I die cut one of the snowflakes that are here. There's a larger one, and of course there are some smaller ones as well. Now I did do that ahead of time, and that is the snowflake that we have here. But I knew this was going to be lost, so I decided to play up a little bit of a focal point for this one. And this is where we're going to bring in some punches. I have the 1 3/4 inch circle punch here. These are all sold in my online store, and a piece of pretty peacock cardstock. Now you'll remember that we just used this on the banner. So this is where the color coordination comes in with Stampin' Up, which is fantastic. Now this is going to fit fine, but again, I wanted to play up more color. So this time I'm going to bring in the 2-inch circle punch, and this is Balmy Blue, which happens to be the other color in the Designer Series paper we just used here. I love the Designer Series paper can dictate the colors of your project, so there's absolutely no guesswork involved. I'm going to make this easy by sticking these 2 circles together first. And I'm switching over to my Stamp and Seal Plus adhesive. I love that it comes out in small tabs because it allows me to be able to just tuck any excess to the back so I don't waste it, and it's super duper strong. Now that I have this disc, Let's go ahead and let's add some liquid glue to the back of this, again using this amazing liquid glue press, and I am barely squeezing. I'm going to recommend that you stick glue in small, thick areas, like some of the tips. If you're like me and you get kind of excited when you're crafting and you find that you're putting a little bit too much glue in one area, like you've got a big glob, here's a great tip. That silicone craft sheet, just dab it. Get that excess off of it so that it's not going to ooze all over the place. And then once you're happy with it, go ahead and attach that to your circle. Now, if you're wondering about this, I'm going to tell you another great thing. Because the multi-purpose liquid glue is water-based, when this dries, it's going to turn an opaque color, and then you simply can just rub it right off your silicone craft sheet. If you are using other glues, go ahead and use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and a cotton ball or a wipe, and that's going to take it right off. So we're going to flip that upside down, and we're going to add our adhesive to the back side. This is going to get centered here. Coming back to those dies once again, I die cut one of these sets of pine needles, but I want to show you what I did to it. I actually took that same glue press and I added glue along the edge of the needles and some glitter. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second, but I'm just bringing this piece in so we can work on our next square. And again, here comes that color coordination. We're going to go ahead and use that needle tip once again, and we're going to apply our glue. This time I'm going to go ahead and attach those needles up here towards the top right corner of that square. I have a small piece of cardstock here that measures the width of our square, and I want to create a snowbank on this. And the best thing to do is to turn it sideways, and you're going to rip towards you. So I want uneven edges, so don't think this has to be perfect. The great thing about the Stampin' Up! Cardstock are the beautiful fibers when you rip it. The other great thing about it is that it's colored all the way through. So let me bring in that piece that we had used previously. Now, other cardstocks on the market, when you rip them, this becomes white. But Stampin' Up's quality is fantastic, that the papers are dyed all the way through. That fibrous edge is going to work fantastic for snowbanks. They're going to look great for sand dunes and all kinds of landscapes. But let me show you how I added the glitter. We had already talked about these reversible tweezers being part of the Embossing Additions toolkit, and I use it all the time. But the other thing that's included is this. This is the little tray, and it's intended to collect all the extra embossing powders when you're heat embossing. But I find it works fantastic to keep things nice and tidy. Now, my best tip for you when you're using fine glitter, which is what I'm using today, is to bring in a disposable coffee filter. Now, I bought a whole package of these at the dollar store, really inexpensive. And the reason I love it is I can not only funnel what I don't use back in the bottle, I can then throw it away. So the cleanup is super easy. The tray is going to help catch any excess, which is going to keep your work surface clean. And then I have another tip for you as well. Now let me introduce you to this amazing extra fine crystal diamond glitter. And if you're like me and you love glitter, I have this linked for you over on my website under Shop Craft Room Favorites. I love it because it's iridescent and it's super, super fine, so it sticks to glue fantastic. I also love it because it has two choices of lids. You can pour or you can shake, which is fantastic for the kids as well. I'm going to go ahead and get this all ready here in my tray. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to hold this down in the corner. We're coming back to that glue press and I am just going to drag the needle randomly across the area. I am not worried about it being perfect. I'm even going to squiggle a little bit further down. Holding it over that coffee filter now, we are going to shake or pour, whatever you choose, generously over the filter. Give that a good tap to get off that excess that's going to want to statically stick on there. Give it a good fling. All this needs now is about a minute for this to dry. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. And while that's drying, let's talk about this. This time of year, glitter is so much fun on our holiday projects, but we don't want to waste it. This is a nice big jar, so you can divide it up with a crafting friend if you'd like. But all you have to do is take the filter and pinch it so that it's sealed at the top and literally pour it right back inside the wide mouth of this bottle. And then there's little to absolutely no waste. Now, the great thing about the tray is I'm going to put this right inside my garbage can, give it a good tap along the side of my trash can, and all this is going to come loose. But if you love glitter and you hate that static mess on your work surface, grab yourself a sticky roller. This is fantastic for picking up glitter and stray embossing powder. And while I think probably it might seem like a silly tip, it has saved me so much work and cleanup. The snowbank for this one is going to fit on this square, but I want to give you a couple tips about this and other ways that you can use it. So I'm going to turn this upside down, and this time I'm going to go right back to that glue press because this has quickly become one of my favorite things. Do you notice how I have left the top portion here free of glue? That's going to be important if you want to use that snowbank for a purpose, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach that here. With my Take Your Pick tool, I've got that paper piercing tool attachment. That's going to allow me to kind of come up here and just kind of loosen up that paper area as the glue begins to dry. Now I went ahead and I took one of my other favorite stamp sets this holiday season, which is called Very Cute. Now there's a gift box in here, and I stamped that several times on some scrap white cardstock. I used my Memento black ink pad. It's a nice simple stamp. I inked it up and I stamped it, and I actually did it 3 times. I used the coordinating Balmy Blue Stampin' Right markers. I also used the dark shaded spruce marker, and I used the combination of Pretty Peacock because those are the colors in my paper to create 3 boxes. Now, if you're brand new to the Stampin' Blends alcohol-based markers, I want to give you a couple tips about using them. There's a light and a dark shade for each of the colors represented in the catalog or in the online store. It doesn't matter if you use the dark or the light first. It's just personal preference. I like to use the light first. So just to give you a quick example, let's do this little corner here, and I'm going to use that tip to color in the area that I want to color. Keep in mind that alcohol markers need a few seconds for the alcohol base to evaporate. So if you're going to build with the darker shade to create some shading, you need to allow that to evaporate. The caps lock on, which I love. There is a brush tip and there is a chiseled kind of pen tip. When you're working with small areas, or you want to outline or define something small, go ahead and use that chisel tip. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to come right inside here, and I'm going to add some definition inside that box. Just like with the light shade, you're going to need to allow a few seconds for that alcohol base to the marker to dry, because that's going to lead credence for a beautiful blend. So that it doesn't look so defined, we're going to come back to the light now, and we are literally going to take the light and pull it from the dark right into light areas. You do not need to cover the entire square. And as this begins to process, you're going to have a beautiful shaded look that makes you look super professional. Now there's no die for this, but this is super simple because it's a rectangle. And I went ahead and I did one of each of the colors that I described to you. Let's come back to here. I always like to lay out my pieces first because then there's no surprises about where they're going to go. And I decided on which colors to put where just based on the Designer Series paper square that I used. So keep that in mind. If you're using a dark color paper here, you're going to want your lighter pieces to be the ones that you tuck inside. Since this one here is furthest in the back, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use these tweezers once again, and we're going to flip this upside down, and we're going to use that amazing glue to our advantage. This now is going to get tucked behind here where we wanted it. We can take this one out and we can do the exact same thing. Add our glue and then just slide that right into place. Once you have those where you want them, we've got our last package here. And I decided just to go ahead and use the liquid glue because it was handy and super easy to use. And like I said, very, very strong. And then I'm going to put this last package right down here at the bottom. We're going to let that dry for just a minute. And we've got one more square that I want to talk to you about. And I think you're going to love what you see. Part of the Very Cute stamp set is this Christmas tree. And this is what I call two-step stamping. So there's a tree that's an outline, of course, allowing you to color it in if you want, or stamping it on colored cardstock like we just did with the holly. Or you can two-step this solid image into here. But I struggled getting a good impression until I tried this. I'm bringing in my mini Misty, and I love the stamp positioning tool because I have arthritic hands and I have difficulty with solid stamps and getting them to come out perfectly. I have a scrap piece of basic white cardstock here. You're going to want to work inside the corner to get perfect positioning every time, especially with two-step stamps. I've pulled out the outline image first, and I'm going to place that face down on my scrap paper where I want it. We're going to close the hinge to pick it up. Now, photopolymer, when it's new, tends to be kind of sticky, and it can lift your paper a little bit. So take that extra second and just make sure it's realigned in the corner. Now, the Christmas tree in your project sheet, I actually stamped the outline in Pretty Peacock, but I want to do something different with you today. I'm going to use the black memento, and the reason I'm changing it up is so that the outline of this tree is going to coordinate with those gift boxes we just did. We're going to go ahead and close this up, and we are going to press out the tree. Now, here is what I love. If you're like me and you don't have a really good, solid, dark image on some of those branches there, which I don't, check to make sure your paper is in the corner, and then you can re-ink this once again, and you can stamp right over that image and have perfect positioning every single time. And that is so much crisper. I'm going to use my chamois and clean that off, and a microfiber cloth to dry it. I'm going to remove that. And now we're going to come in with the solid image. Make sure you're in the corner. Once again, those magnets are very, very strong, so you don't have to worry about them sliding. And take the image face down once again. The reason I love this is not only is it going to assure me that I've got a nice solid image, it's going to allow me to perfectly line it up where I want it. Now, once you've lined it up and you're happy with it, go ahead and close that door to lift the stamp. And again, photopolymer may lift up that image just a little bit, so scoot it down in your corner. Here now, we are going to use that garden green to keep with that coordination. Stampin' Up's color coordination is second to none. So the ink matches the marker, that matches the paper, and so on. And now we're going to press. But you're going to see that we've got a lot of areas that are really not solid. So here's the beauty of the Misty. We're going to use that corner once again for perfect alignment, and we are going to take that garden green ink once again, and we are going to ink this up. We are going to close this, and it's going to go exactly where it's supposed to be, and we are going to press. This time when we lift it, we are going to have a fantastic looking image. You can find the Misty either in the full size, the 12 by 12, or the mini that I'm using here, all linked on my website under Shop Craft Room Favorites. I know you're going to love it as much as I do. Now you might be wondering if there's a die for this, and there is not, but have no fear. We've got our paper snips. I absolutely love these scissors with Stampin' Up because they're small and they're sharp and they're easy to use. I'm not going to cut out the whole thing with you, but I want to go over fussy cutting. And that's when we don't have a die. A lot of people are intimidated. So watch what I'm doing. I'm leaving a little bit of white around the outside of the image because I don't want to distort it. When you get to those rounded edges, all you have to do is just turn the paper. Don't turn the scissors. That's going to make it a lot easier for you. Now, I did do that ahead of time, as I said, just to save a little bit of time. And just like we've done before with the snowbank, I went ahead and I used that glue press to add some glue in those white areas to make my tree look like it was laden with snow. This time, I've put this on a piece of Balmy Blue Designer Series paper. I love that the Designer Series papers come in color sections. So there's bolds, neutrals, regals, and subtles. And this actually works perfect with all the other papers. Again, that color coordination. Now here you can go ahead and use your adhesive, or I'm going to drag my glue press here once again. And like I said, that multi-purpose liquid glue is very, very strong. This time I'm going to put my tree right here in the middle of the square. Now here comes the best part. We're going to put that all on top of here. This one particularly happens to be 8 inches by 8 inches. Please keep in mind that you can change this to be any size that you want. I'm going to recommend, just as we've done before, that you take your pieces and you lay them out first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place these here near the bottom. I'm going to take my gift boxes and put them here. The reason I like to do this is if you end up deciding that you want to rearrange this, you absolutely can. But once you've adhered them, it's almost impossible or very challenging to move them. This one will go here. And of course, we had our Noel, the one we started here. Now, if you're like me and you can't do anything straight, you're probably thinking, oh, goodness gracious, how is this going to work? Okay, so I've got you covered, and I'm going to give you a couple ideas. First, you can use a little bit of adhesive. So I'm going to give you a rough idea. What I like to do is I love to use my Take Your Pick tool, and I like to just line up everything where I think it should go. Keep in mind that if you're going to frame this, that you need to take into consideration if the frame is going to come over part of your sampler, of your little layout. If it's not, then you're in good shape. You can work pretty close to the edge. Again, I want to get an idea on spacing before we start putting some adhesive on. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but if you're super particular, you can actually bring in a ruler. But I've got another tip with a ruler that I think is going to help you immensely. These pieces are simply designer series paper from the package. Those beautiful patterns didn't require any embellishment. But then I took the liberty of gussing up the other simpler patterns to bring some interest to this. You're going to want to use a T ruler, and I absolutely love this for these types of projects because I can't do anything straight. I'm going to recommend that you either measure or visually find the center. That would be this piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to put a very small amount of adhesive on the back. If you touch it with your hands, any adhesive is going to start to break down a little bit from the oils or the lotions on your skin. And then once you've got an idea on where it's supposed to go, you can lightly tack this in place. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to make sure it's as straight as I possibly can, but don't worry because that's where this is going to come into play. You're going to use this straight edge of the T ruler to your advantage. So I'm looking to line this up. Once I have it at the bottom of my white piece here, guess what? We're good to go. Now we can attach all the other pieces. So let's do this. Let's take this first one just so I can give you a demonstration. I'm going to add adhesive to my four corners and probably just a dab here in the center. Please keep in mind that this one specifically is going to be framed, so I'm not super concerned about covering every square inch. Use this edge here to the left of your screen to your advantage. Make sure you're at the bottom of the white piece. And then what you're going to do is concentrate on the spacing. So now that I know that I have these aligned, I am looking to make sure that the top of the designer series paper is going to be as even as possible to the white. Now that I know that that is secure, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to add even more adhesive to it. Now you might be wondering why I didn't do that to begin with. Because if for some reason it didn't look right, I can change things around. So here we go again. I've got my T ruler here on the left-hand side of your screen, keeping it aligned to the paper so I know that it's straight. I'm looking specifically at the square and I'm going to come here to the center. The spacing that you create on the very first two boxes is going to create the map for the entire thing. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move to this one here and we're going to add our adhesive. I'm going to move these other squares out of the way so we have a nice blank canvas. I've realigned the T ruler here and I'm going to take this designer series paper now and I'm going to attach it here. The space here is what you're looking to try to mimic on this side. Just do the very best that you can. I'm looking to try to see if the edge across the top is the same all the way across. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this up to here. And we're going to start with the middle panel. In my case, that's going to be this one. I've added my adhesive to the back side. Before I start sticking it, I want to hold it and I want the same margin of space here. So I am looking to align the designer series paper above that margin about the white. And again, if you're not sure, don't press it in place because that's going to be the mapping for the rest of the row. So I'll bring up that T ruler once again, and then we're going to attach these other squares. Now that we have all of our pieces attached, you're going to want to flip it upside down and gently rub from the back to make sure everything is secure. Now I'm going to talk to you about embellishments because I love them and I know you do too. You need to be cognizant if you're going to add glass to your framed art that that's going to create some bulk and it's going to need some extra space. But I fell in love with these flat back adhesive pearls because I found they worked perfectly. Now you'll see that there's two different sizes here. There's a larger one here at the bottom. They already have glue dots on the back, which make them really easy to use. So I'm going to put that right here in the middle of my snowflake. And I love that abstract shape for this. This time the smaller shape. And I'm going to work that up here towards the holly. You can use the putty tip or you can use the paper piercing tool attachment to pick them up. And then once you have them, you can create that real fun cluster to mimic berries. Now you might be wondering why I made my berries pearl, just because I was keeping with the color continuity. On the back of your handmade projects, do me a favor, take a few minutes, write the month, the date, or the year, and sign it. Take credit for your beautiful artwork before you give it to them, and then wait until you see how it turns out finished and the alternate sample I have for you. I chose this beautiful black frame for this one, and I will apologize for a little bit of glare on the camera, but this is identical to what we did. The only difference here is if you look closely, I stamped the outline of the tree in the pretty peacock ink, where here I did the black to mimic the outline of the gift boxes. There's no right or wrong way, but I'm going to tell you what, this is the most amazing frame and I knew you're going to love it. So I have this and the tea ruler linked for you on my website under Shop Craft Room Favorites. This frame was $8.99. I want to show you how thick it is. Let me show you the back. It includes an easel, so it's great for tabletop, but guess what? They also included all of this. There's a little bracket here that fits underneath here so you can hang it from the wall. And for those of you that love the wire, they even include the wire and the brackets to add wire to the back of your frame if you prefer to hang it that way. For $8.99, you cannot beat this. Here's the best part, how it came packaged. There were 4 of these, all 4 the corners. So I knew when I took it out of the box that it was not going to be all damaged and marred. This is going to be a fantastic gift. And the best thing of all, this comes in white and different wood tones in addition to the black. But wait until you see this next project. Now I've gone ahead and laid that on top to help distract from some of that glare, but here is the next one. I decided to play up that black frame with some Poppy Parade, which is very close to red, and some white for a real fun, whimsical, modern Christmas feel. This I used the Merry and Bright bundle stamp sets and coordinating dies, and I also used the Sending Cheer bundle stamps and dies. I added Wink of Stella to my ornament, to the tops of the fluffs of my stocking, and the Santa hat. Lots and lots of fun. The difference between these, you'll notice this has a white layer around all the designer series papers. I added a little bit of vellum here just to get some opaqueness so that I can add those words so they would stand out beautifully. Whether you choose to layer them or not, you cannot go wrong with this handmade Christmas gift on a budget, and break out those handmade card supplies. As always, I love to know your favorites, so pop down right now in the comments and let me know which one you prefer. And as a reminder, those frames come in various colors, so make sure you snag yours for a budget Christmas gift this year. And next, I want to make sure you know all about Stamp Studio memberships. If you love ideas that have never been seen anywhere else, I've got you covered. And perhaps you're a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you need fresh ideas for classes and workshops. You can use these tutorials. Every Monday, right to your inbox, I'm going to provide you with a brand new project idea and a tutorial to use for any way that you choose. Head over to lisastampstudio.com and click on memberships where you can scroll through the information. Right now, we are in the midst of the last chance products promotion with Stampin' Up! These are products that are in the current mini catalog that are retiring. So right now is a great time to snag your favorites, some of which are on sale. And if you're keeping track, mark your calendar. I will be back with you next Monday, which is December 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon and the word all so that YouTube will send you reminders. Thank you so much for being here with me this evening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.